The Rich Dad Radio Show is the good news and bad news about money. And I'd like to ask you to talk about what, I see on YouTube also, and so YouTube is full of experts today. But Jim's one of the few guys I respect the most, and I trust his word.
I give a pretty tough analysis. I don't consider myself a doom and gloom person. I get called that all the time, but I'm actually a very optimistic person. But I'm also a realistic person and analyst, and I don't think you serve listeners or readers or viewers very well if you don't kind of tell it like it is.
So, Jim, we've covered Ukraine, Russia, and China. And I've never heard that, that terrifies me, the idea of an escalating nuclear war, because there's no such thing as a small nuclear war.
Well, you're right, Robert. We did China and COVID, and we did Russia and Ukraine, and the possibility of nuclear war, which is way too high right now. So let's bring it back home, as Bob Dylan said, and we'll talk about what's going on in the U.S. Of course, the U.S. is the world's largest economy. The U.S. dollar is the world's largest reserve currency, so what happens here doesn't stay here. And we're heading for a very severe recession. I just want to kind of explain briefly the dynamics of that. So I want to talk about three views of the world. I'll be brief. The first is Jay Powell's view. What is Powell's plan? What is Jay Powell doing? The second perspective is, what does the market think is going to happen? The market doesn't necessarily have to agree with Powell. And then the third thing is, what's really happening? That's the most important, because the market has it wrong too. So Powell's plan is clear because he's told us 5 times. He's starting to worry that no one's listening, but he gave speeches August 26th in Jackson Hole, September 21st in Washington, D.C., November 2nd, again at Washington, D.C. at an FOMC meeting, November 30th at the Brookings Institution, and again on December 14th at an FOMC meeting in Washington. So that's 5 speeches. And he said the same thing all 5 times. He said, inflation is job one. It's not that we don't care, but unemployment is going to go up. We're going to have a recession. He doesn't use the R word, by the way, but it's implicit in everything he says. We are going to have a recession. Unemployment is going up. And too bad. It's kind of too bad, because we got to get inflation under control. Here's what the market says. Okay, so that's the Powell plan. We already know it. The market says, hey, inflation is already coming down. Well, it is. That's actually true. Inflation peaked on a year-over-year basis. Monthly report calculated year-over-year was 9.1% in June, but it's come down from high 8s, mid 8s, low 8s, 7.7, 7.1. Now, 7.1 is still high. Don't get me wrong. Inflation is still high, too high. I buy gas and shop for groceries just like everybody else, so it's still too high. But it has come down. Here's the reality. There is a chance that we are already at the terminal rate. But the conundrum is inflation coming down because the Fed is still hiking, or is the inflation coming down because they're at the terminal rate? Well, we don't know. That means, as usual, they're going to screw it up, they're going to blunder, they're going to go too far, and it's not going to be a mild recession. It's not going to be Goldilocks. In this version, Goldilocks gets eaten by the bears. In other words, you're going to throw this economy into a very deep recession because you're going to go too far, as usual. And you're not going to know it until too late. By the time you realize it's mission accomplished, you will have gone too far, too long, rates are going to be too high, and it's not going to be a soft landing. And people say, I hate cash because it has no yield. Well, first of all, if we had deflation, cash could be your best performing asset, because the real value of money goes up, not down. If things are crashing and burning all around you, the person with cash who's not stuck in the wrong asset class can go shopping. You can pick up the bargains. And by the way, the biggest cash hoard in the world right now is probably Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway. He has $130 billion in cash. Why? Because he sees what I see. He sees what we're talking about. The wreck is coming, and again, you get to go shopping. I run into people that've got 50 stocks, and they say, I'm highly diversified. I've got 50 stocks in 10 sectors, semiconductors, minerals and mining, consumer non-durables. I go, you're not diversified. You may have 50 stocks, but you're in one asset class, stocks. They're all going to go down together, or they're all going to go up together. But when you have a slice of stocks, gold, silver, real estate, cash, treasury notes, and maybe some private equity, etc., that's real diversification, and that portfolio will get you through the storm.
May I ask you one more question?
Sure.
What do you see? Because during the boom years, people added employees. Do you see unemployment increasing? I mean, I know it better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Yeah, I mean, just every day, Target, Amazon, FedEx. Today, Goldman Sachs firing 5,000 employees. Twitter, thousands of layoffs. I know they're individual cases, but Amazon, same thing. They add up, and then not to mention all when you get into recession, which is coming, all the small businesses that sadly just fail and lay off everybody.
Well, Jim, all these years I followed you, and like I've said, one of the biggest concerns I have about YouTube and all the experts on it, most of them aren't experts. Most of them only know the boom economy, and you have to be over 30 to have some, lash marks across your back. It's called experience.